Hello, everyone. Hope everybody is doing well. I hope you all had a great Memorial Day. And before I begin about the topic of this channel, I really want to discuss some of these YouTube users because some of them have been dumping a lot of harsh words and name calling or whatever in the comment section of my YouTube videos. And I think it's about time for me to respond and call them out. And once I show you their comments, I suggest you reply to them. But honestly, I don't care. The fact is I'm getting a lot of support. I'm going to remain confident. And as long as I provide a lot of good evidence on the information that I offer you guys, I feel like I'm going on the right track. So let's take a look at some of these commentators. We have this guy, and he seems to disagree with me on some of the issues and delivers a lot of support, but he seems to do it in a very respectful way. And this guy is DDR Hazy. And you can see he has a suggestion, but on sometimes, he has criticized the way I have presented on my immigration views, a lot of different things, and that's fine. This is another commentator. He used to have another channel called Just Independent, but he provides a lot of evidence, really, really nice, explained, and wonderful vocabulary and grammar. Provides a lot of evidence. I hope he keeps commentating and doesn't remove a lot of his posts. This is a guy I wanted to share you about. His name is Craig O. And in the beginning, he's really supported my channel, especially when I talked about immigration. And then in the last 2-3 weeks, it seems like I've gone downhill from him. And this is what he just points out. He says, Cyrus, you're really starting to sound like a drama queen with the reliability of a supermarket tabloid. Give less opinion, more fact. Really, really, really. Well, look. It's hard to give out facts when you're just seeing a lot of clues, but it's not really easy to trust a lot of people in the real world. And then he talks about education is key. You have the basic 4-year degree. Well, excuse me. I think it's becoming more common knowledge that credential levels are not an accurate measure of education. And then he comes out and tells me that, yeah, I've unsubscribed. Whatever. Seriously, you just bring so much negativity. And you're just one of those people who seem to really bring harsh criticism to immigrants, unlike many of my other commentators. And yeah, we do have problems with immigration, but no, I don't think they're the main problem in this country and responsible for the main causes of the issues we experience with labor, crime, and so forth. But this guy seems to, and not to mention, he has used the W word many times. It's pretty harsh. And yeah, there are things I don't like about them, but I don't think it's appropriate to use that term. And then it's funny, when I seem to appease him by criticizing immigrants, you have other people that attack me in another angle. And this is where we get this channel right here, the Gay Gamer channel. And he just constantly seems to attack me, doesn't give me any support. And if you've noticed, he doesn't comment on many of my videos, just always attack after attack after attack. He doesn't seem to comment on my investment views, my urban planning views, just architecture and a few other things, not to mention immigration. Correct me if I'm wrong. And it's just absolutely just spitting my words. And look what he just points out. Cooking and cleaning isn't a skill that you're taught in trade school. Like, what is that supposed to mean? Look, back in the day, men, especially who were young, knew how to fix things. People had better cooking skills that they could support for the family. And there was a lot of benefits. You saved money, you ate a more healthier meal. But now we really don't have that. Young folks don't really have much to offer in a relationship. That's why relationships are not what they used to be. And that's why it's harder than ever to start families. And it's not just women that cook and clean. Well, excuse me, that's a tradition that people have been following. And by the way, I cook a lot of meals too. I'm not saying just women should cook and clean, but you have to have people in the house who can cook decent meals and can't rely on eating out. It says, no wonder you don't have a girlfriend. Well, first of all, how the hell do you know that? Do you know my personal life? Just because I don't show you the women I date does not mean that I don't have a girlfriend. Give me a break. And by the way, a lot of people have been pointing this out. This whole MGTOW movement is growing, and there's really not seem to be a interest or a benefit in being in a relationship. So the worst part about a lot of these channels, they don't respond to my comments. They just dump criticism and they move on. Well, do me a favor, maybe you should respond to this guy. Honestly. And again, I welcome criticism, but not like this. Maybe he can learn from other commentators, like the first one I've talked to you about right here. Okay, so let's go on with the issue that I wanted to discuss. Oh, and by the way, I just forgot. As you know, the stock market, they're about to open in the positive, very likely. The futures are in the plus. So as you can see, there's a lot of reopening optimism. I've talked about this many, many times. Although we will see a lot of turbulence along the way. There's earnings, not to mention still will the American people will have the ability to have the confidence again. Although, yet again, you got to keep in mind the stock market is not necessarily a true measure and the health of the average person or the economy, depending on how you look at it. So let's talk about our main issue, and that is, of course, the suburban experiment. Now, as you know, in my channel, I've been very critical of the urban planning our society has done after the 1920s. And Las Vegas, depending on how you look at it, it's ground zero because it's very, very up to date in terms of its building, its structures. It's one of the newest metro areas in the United States. And usually the newer does not mean that it's better. It has a lot of issues. And basically what we have essentially is a system, well, as you can see right here, this is before and after, and the after is where you have a very complicated street network. And we're going to discuss about these later on, but let's take a look at this article. There's been numerous articles in the weeks explaining how the pandemic is destined to bolster demand and spread out for suburban living. Now, first of all, in this channel, I've talked about the fact that density is not the main issue. And the issue is not whether or not people live in single-family homes and have yards or live in high-rises. The issue is the layout of the transportation networks and land uses. So you can have an area of high concentration of single-family homes, but you do not have to be as car dependent as many old-fashioned cities have talked about. But you see, the thing is that when we mean suburban, we don't mean like anti-single family home. We mean the system where land uses are heavily segregated and are heavily car dependent. And as it goes on, the newly liberated to work from home instead of commute from the office, many more Americans will opt out to the American dream of single-family homeownership in a large London suburb. They will have their own isolated space, free to live in their freedoms and enduring prosperity. This is a ludicrous interpretation of current events, and one believes that not only facts is ground, but Americans find themselves in. The suburbs are not about to have a renaissance. In fact, there are many reasons to believe that we're nearing the end of the entire suburban experiment. Well, here's what I think what's happening. I think that rural areas, suburban areas, and urban areas are having lots of problems. The rural areas are going to have problems because if we have these hyperloop systems and the indoor farming, it's going to reduce the need of obviously stopping in the middle of nowhere or perhaps growing food far out. Suburban areas are having problems because retail is dying out, Parking lots are becoming more empty. And really the banking system is propping up these McMansions and all that is starting to have a lot of dysfunction. Plus the cost of obviously the infrastructure, the roadways, and so forth. Now, urban areas have problems too. You know, they're not getting a lot of population growth, as you know, because immigrant levels are coming down. There's a lot of corruption, high taxes, etc. So I think all three are having serious problems. I've chosen my words carefully because what is ending is not merely sprawling suburbs, though they have not passed their peak, but the entire experimental pattern of urban, suburban, and rural development prototypes in the North American continent in the early 20th century. Our attempts to prop it up have failed, and I don't think we're going to be capable of going back, even though we don't have a broad consensus to do so. For thousands of years, human builds their incrementally on a continuum of improvement. So this article talks about the end of big. And like I said, like many times I've expressed in this channel, we support a lot of traditional aspects of urban development. And so you can see on their diagrams, the mature city, and then you have the vertical and horizontal overexpansion. This is kind of like Houston. And then you have the organic expansion through duplication. So basically, you know, I guess there's benefits to all three. You know, a lot of people like high rises, and then a lot of people like to spread out. There's the mature city. There is the organic expansion. You know, I really think that we can really have this last one here, but we may have some of the benefits of the vertical and horizontal. And you can see here they talk about the end of big through the prism of technology, and our development patterns for 75 plus years were not able to new realities. So it is kind of interesting that as technology moves on, we're going to see less is more. I thought the meteorite strike in the economic crisis of 2008. But the reason it didn't happen, obviously, is because the development system got propped up by bailouts and low interest rate and lending standards. Now, they're talking about how this suburban experiment is not good for the pandemics. And I guess there's a lot of reasons why for that. Obviously, you know, you're very isolated. You are not having easy access to food and other services with your neighbors. And not to mention, you know, getting emergency help and going around. Obviously, it takes a lot of time and energy. So another way to think about this is a brilliant case of the Texas donut and the historic Charleston put together by civicconversation.org. And you can see, look at these buildings. Look at the height to width ratio of the street and the buildings, the infill, how the housing and shopping and everything, the mixed use, they're all compatible with one another. This is something we can really, really learn. And this is something we can really similarly build here in Las Vegas, although some notable differences in the style. Suburban living burns cash. In approach, local governments get past benefits of the immediate growth and the exchange take in the long-term liabilities in providing service and maintenance. And it doesn't add up well. Well, no duh. Urban centers are better off without their suburbs. So, yeah, I really think what we're going to see is really all three systems are going to have some serious dysfunction over the years. And basically, I think one of the things we can do is, even though people are getting fed up with the urban centers, does not mean, though, that we can basically drop away a lot of their benefits. One of the benefits of the urban center, as you know, it is a grid system. So let's say, for an example, you live here, you can basically walk within a 1 mile radius and not easily get lost and have a more clear defined path. But let's say if you want to go here, and you live here, you have to go all the way through here, loop around here, all this stuff. So this loop maze-like cul-de-sac dead-end system with these bullcrap HOAs and gated areas is not the answer. Like, you want space in your single-family home, but certainly you can do a lot of things differently. Let me show you a little bit about, obviously, this is an area where I live in right here, and there is this corner 7-Eleven, but when you have a person who lives here, even though the 7-Eleven is about 100 feet away, the thing is the person has to go, if they want to walk or drive, all the way down here, then through here, then through this street, then make a left and fill in capacity in this road, and then drive all the way back up to Grand Canyon. It's just an absolute waste of resources, time, and money. This is the main problem with our urban system. Yet, you can see the old-fashioned cities, and they don't have that problem. They can easily walk. And even in this development right here, it's even newer. A person can literally live here, walk across the street to the 7-Eleven. So why can't these people? They can't even put a walking trail here. This is absolutely unbelievable. It's insane, I tell you. It's insane. And yet, the worst part is we have a lot of the codes and regulations that encourage this kind of development. It's absolutely disappointing. But this is why you guys need to spread the word about people like me. We need to put large signage, criticize the opposition, and really start to build an alternative to create a domino effect on change. Now, here's another problem I want to talk about, and this is referring to Russell Road. What they prefer is either a street or a road, or which you can call a highway, parkway, whatever you want to call it. So the street is where you have slow traffic, you have a lot of emphasis on people and transit, you focus on building, you fill the gaps, you have essentially buildings that face the street. They don't have like a major parking lot in front of them, and you stay adaptable. And you can see here the buildings and the housing are very compatible. But then you have these mega roadways, and I think a good example would probably be like Summerlin Parkway, where you have an attractive buffer zone, or they're sunken in a city, and you have limited access. You seek to close existing accesses, keep people and bikes away, so you don't have like these long crosswalks, you have to wait 35 seconds and so forth. And we see that a lot. A lot of people jaywalk, and there's a lot of pedestrian accidents here in Las Vegas. You don't try to build anything, you try to move vehicles quickly. So I have actually drafted a lot of areas that have many of these concepts, and I'll be happy to share with them very, very soon. And so I wanted to take this final minute or two to share you about really what's an example of architecture and housing development I'm a big fan of, because I have given you a lot of criticism about the tract homes in the area, including McMansions. Well, this is a mansion that I seem to have more respect for. This is more like a real mansion. And this home, believe it or not, is the most expensive in Canada, which, you know, we can really build this, I believe, Jacobean style home in the US because we have similar culture. And you can just really look at the beautiful windows, the pears, the gables, the moldings. It's absolutely incredible. The parapet walls, the towers. There's a lot of things you have to think about when you do a home like this. And you can go along and you can see here, wow, look at this beautiful oval entrance. Look at this rotunda, library, spiral staircase, wainscoting. It's just stunning. Look, if we want to build real mansions, let's build them more like this. And by the way, I think we can build a home in a similar architectural style here in Las Vegas, but we may have to use different materials and so forth. So wow, look at these beautiful double island kitchen. incredible. Wow. So you let me know what you think. I will pretty soon share my designs in the future. And hopefully as a result of this pandemic, we'll have a true urban renaissance. All right, everybody, if you like my content, please share and subscribe. Thank you guys so much. Take care, have fun, and stay wise.